Hey everyone, Happy New Year. This is the first episode for our New Year's. In the past 2025, I spent most of the time developing and exploring the feature of Power BI versioning, which is using the Git, VS Control, Power BI Desktop, and also GitHub to make sure you have the proper versioning rollback strategy for your Power BI development. In this episode, I'm not gonna introduce any new idea, but by closing the cycle, we're able to link the GitHub to your Power BI Workspace. This is really powerful because this complete the missing link between your manual push from a local environment to a workspace. So what happened is we're going to complete the cycle into this episode, work you through detail by detail how do you configure and set up the GitHub and also the Power BI Workspace so they can talk to each other. So we can from a local environment push everything along to a different workspace. For example, here we have UAT and the prod workspace to make sure everything aligns with the company's policy. So let's get started. First, let's just work through this workflow. From the top, we can see that's the red Git environment. It's a local environment. You play it with the VS Code. This will help you to just use click and drag to make sure you have commit happen. So what happened is Ben, as the author, he is linked to a remote repository which is called UAT, and from that he will branch out as a hotfix because he tried to develop something locally. Then we come to the second one. Once he developed the things under a different branch, and this branch is going to be staged and also committed, and also the hotfix branch is going to push to the cloud, which is GitHub. Once it's pushed to the hotfix to the cloud, the next step is Ben wants someone to review his code, so his side branch hotfix can be merged back to the main branch, which is UAT. And then after creating this pull request, someone, in this case is Emma gonna review that in the case to see if the code that has been presented by Ben is okay or not. If it's not, she gonna push it back to the hotfix and let Ben to review. If yes, then the hotfix gonna merge back to the UAT, and also the commit gonna be rebased. Based on this push, there is a connection between the GitHub UAT branch and also a UAT workspace in the Power BI Workspace. By that time, the workspace UAT will receive a notification say there's something changed through the upstream, which is the GitHub, and do you want to make the change happen in the workspace for the dataset or the Power BI report. That's happening. Then the next stage is that we're going to manually push this from UAT workspace to a prod workspace. What happened in the prod is that it's kind of disconnect from the UAT. Whenever you have changed to UAT, prod will sense that you can make a decision to push from the UAT to the prod. And then next step is that our audience is going to join in at different stages. Sometimes they will join in the UAT to test. Once UAT is passed and pushed to the prod, final user is going to use that through the app layer. So we're going to go through this whole workflow to test out if our strategy is working. So let's get started. First, let's jump back into our screen. So there's some important missing pieces that we need to configure before we do that. First, like I said before, we link our GitHub repo, one of the repo UAT, with a UAT workspace. So let's do that first. Now I'm from the perspective of one of the employee, which is Ben, and he's able to set up a workspace. So in order to benefit that linkage between a UAT branch, GitHub branch, and also a workspace, you need to have your workspace under a high premium capacity list or the fabric. Here, let's just create a new workspace. Let's call this workspace as sales report. For sales report, we give a bracket called UAT. So for this one, we're gonna assign this to at least a premium per user capacity. Let's just apply that. Once you assign that, you can see there's a diamond icon which represents this is premium content that's been used throughout this session. Once we have this ready, we are able to configure this workspace, link back to our sales report branch, UAT branch in the GitHub. So let's get started. The first, we go into the workspace settings. License here, let's recheck again. The license is premium at least. So that's okay. And then we enter the GitHub. On the GitHub, it asks you to add account. So we click add account. So this is the screen that we need to spend some time to understand. There are three things need to be fulfilled. First is display name. We can same as like say PBI Workspace. Sales report. We can just give that name. This one is actually a GitHub related key. Is a dynamic key going to be renewed or manually renewed by someone at a certain interval? So here we need get a key. Where did you get a key? Personal access token. Let's just head back to the GitHub. Make sure you have access to this repo and then go into your profile and there's a setting. Under the setting, left pane, the bottom, developer settings, and then personal access, and find grant token. That's what we're talking about. And then let's just say generate new token. This new token, let's give it a name, say PBI Workspace Sales Report. So what happened is this is a personalized token that you can get it hooked with one or many repo. For each of the repo, you are able to configure to very granular how the user use this key can access to what level. So in this example that I'm going to choose a different owner because I know the sales report is owned by this group. And also I'm going to set up this as like say 90 days expire. And then I'm going to only choose one repo, which is the sales report. So this screen is telling us we are using this access token, or you can think about it as a password, to access a repo owned by this owner. And this token is going to expire in 90 days. And I'm choosing just one repo with the sales report. Under this, we need to add permissions. So for this to work with Power BI Workspace, we only need content. Click the box. And here we need to configure the content access level to read and write. So that's only two things, add content and read and write. And then we generate token. Generate. Once it's generated, this is the code that I'm having. So heading back to the Power BI Workspace. So this is the token I copied. Going back to the organization. And here we have this here, demo. And then we're going back to this, find this to repository and sales report. Then I can copy this, going back to here and paste. So that's information that we need to fill in. The personalized token gave you the power to access a GitHub repo with the granular control that we just set up through the personalized token in the GitHub. We add. Once we add it, you can see that's what's been showing that you're accessing this website using your personalized token. Let's say connected. Once it's connected, you're going to read through the branch from that repo. Currently, we only have one UAT. So that's why we need to link this to UAT. UAT is like a pre-production branch. Is one branch just right before the production. So it's very close to what you will finally see in a production branch. But this one, let's just say, is a pre one. So folder, we just leave it blank, we connect and sync. Once it's synced, what will happen is it's going to read the content from GitHub. But what's inside this GitHub is your Power BI report information. So that's why over here, once this is done, we can hit here. You can see it's loading. You're loading the semantic model. You're loading everything that from the repository to this workspace. And if we open this sales report, it's nothing. That's because in the repo, we haven't designed anything. What we only design is the semantic model. So let's head back to the UAT workspace. So this is where you have finished a certain part from this UAT to this UAT, but we have another path to going through, which is this one. So we need two workspaces. We have UAT workspace ready. So let's get ready for the prod workspace. So for the prod workspace, we can go into workspace, create. So since it's a prod, I don't need to carry the name of prod. I just name as normally sales report. And for this one, I need to assign as a premium as well and apply. Once this is ready, the next step is how do we link these two together with this line. So in the Power BI, there is a feature called deployment pipeline. That's what we're gonna use. So if we hit here, so that's the thing. Let's just get done. Say sales report pipeline. Configure that. So I actually need two, so we don't need this. So let's rename this as sales report UAT. And this one, let's call it, oh, I haven't saved that. Sales report UAT. Save. This one, sales report prod. Hit. Okay. Done the change of the name of the pipeline. Now we need to create and continue. What happened is in this stage, you're going to assign a dedicated workspace to this one pipeline, one at a time. So let's assign this for our UAT, assign this for our prod. Let's tick that. So this is our pipeline. From the UAT workspace, I can see I have two contents. One is the report, the other one is the semantic model. In the prod, I have nothing. That's where you want to use this line to deploy. So what happened is we click the workspace, which is the next level. It will see what is actually only in the source. Right now we have semantic model and report, both are in the source, which is a UAT workspace, but it's not in the prod. So what we can do, we can take these two and deploy. Once we deploy, you'll see the change that happened in the sales report, and also the status from this column going to be changed. Will be say same as the source. Move this a little bit up. Okay, deployment has been done. So same as the source, which means right now what has been reflected in the prod workspace is exactly same as the UAT workspace. So now we have closed the gap between these two, but also this one, which is the UAT to the UAT. We have done this line. So now let's restart the story. The real story is that someone wants to fix something. That's why we have Hotfix. So what happened is the data source in the Power BI is not that accurate, so we want to have it update. So Ben will be working on updating the data source URL with a link. Emma gonna approve that. So let's get started. So first, let's open an environment where only Ben have access. For example, this is the document. I can create a folder saying Ben. Okay. So first thing is that we can just clone the repository. So VS Code, you can open that. If you don't know how to use VS Code together with your Power BI or Git, just look at for my previous video. You should be able to get everything through. So first, what we need to do is to clone a repository from the remote locally. And remote is this address that we have talked about. So we'll copy the address, going back to here, clone repo. So first, make sure that you have the setup properly, but right now I'm setting up the wrong person, so I'm just signing out, and then I'm just signing in. This time sign in, I'm using Ben, which is myself, for this firexcel company. We just open that. Now we have that. You can see I'm signed in, and then I'm gonna clone this, clone from GitHub, just alone, sign in again. Open the VS Code again. Now we can see we have two. We want to clone this one. So this tells you where you want a clone is. So we know that we want to clone it into to the documents bins folder. Okay, let's just say, would you like to open? Yes, we want to open that. So now everything here is same as here. How to check? You can go into the source control, check the latest commit. The latest commit is shown here is 4827, which is mentioned here. So I know that I'm to the very up to date. Or you can do a fetch. You know, when you say fetch, it's supposed to be nothing in display because it's already synced. So nothing happened means local UAT, cloud UAT, they are at the same point of time. So that's okay. Now let's just open this file. So we want to open this file so we can do a review in Explorer and then double click to open that. Like we said before, Ben is onboarding, try to fix something. We said the URL or the data source link is not correct. We want to update that. It may take a little bit of time to load, but should be very quick because we don't have any visuals. So here is a thing. So if you want to check the data source, going to transform data and added parameter, because I know the data source was set up in terms of like say using a parameter, but it can check the data source first. So this is the data source. So it's predicting the file is saved at by firexcel documents, and but right now it's not, right? So for example, if you're going to add parameters, so that's where the data source is sourcing address from here, because I know this is the local environment from my environment. So over here, back to one folder. Let's just say the data source path is wrong. It's actually in this folder. Let's just check the name. So what happened is not under the document, the firexcel data source is actually under by firexcel document bin. So in the middle of the path, there's a document bin and the data source folder rather than document and data source folder. Let's just recheck that. So this document data source folder. Actual path is there's a bin in between. So we want to update that. So what are you going to do is just update this. Once you update, you can hit OK. You don't know, for example, if you hit apply changes, nothing will happen because you don't have the real data, right? When it's evaluate, it will be prompting the arrow, say didn't find. That's fine. So what we can do is, so here I do have the data. So let's going back to here. I do have the data in my cloud drive. Let's just open the data source. So I know the data source is within this folder. And so I can just copy and then head back to this folder and put everything inside, paste locally. Once I've done that, I'm applying change it again. Let's see if it's gonna be able to read the file content. So waiting for other queries, syncing schema, I think is reading things from the file. Okay. So let's just reiterate what I've done. I mimic a situation where the data source, the path is not correct. Previously, the data source is reading things from document and data folder. But what I know is that actually the data source is saved in a bin folder and also data source folder. That's why I need to change the path of the data source or the parameters in the Power BI framework. Once that has been done, you can see I'm able to see the data throughout the whole tables. So let's just say we have finished the task. Next thing you want to do is once you finish the task, reposition your report to the original position, which means if previously some pane is closed, you make sure it's closed. Make sure you don't change any of this, because any change of this course or position, you do involve a commit or change. So we just update the data source, update the parameter data source, hit save. Once we hit save, we head back to the VS Code, check this one. You can see there's one change, source control, and we hit it here. So this is the change. We acknowledge that. You can see we update the thing from the document data source folder to document bin data source folder. So that's exactly what we have changed. Before you make a commit, you need to think about branching, right? I ask you many times, whenever you try to commit a change, you always know who you are, first thing. Second, where are you standing at? Third, if you make a commit, who are you, right? So let's check a few things. What you can check, you can open the new terminal. The first thing I want to check is that who am I? So you can say git config user.name. Currently there's no name, so I need other name. So since I'm Ben, so I'm adding my name. Second thing I want to check is the email. There's no email, so I want to fulfill that with my email address. Once this two thing has been done, if you recheck that again, you have an email being returned. And also if you check the username, you have name pop up. So this two information has been registered just by me through this two command. Okay, once this has been done, the other thing is that you need to check your branch, git branch. But this is just one of the way you check. I'm currently standing at the UAT branch, but you can check it through the interface. So how do we switch branch? Let's just use the VS Code. Click this one and create new branch. So that's what we're about to do. Remember the branch name that we'll talk about through our slides. Over here, we want commit into a hotfix branch. So hotfix. You can use / to give a second layer, like a more detail what you are trying to fix. So we're fixing is the data source link, right? That's what we're trying to fix. We hit enter. Once you hit enter, you're checking out at that branch already. So you can recheck here. You can see I'm checking out at hot data link branch. Okay. Now we've checked out, we're able to make the change stages. So the first thing, before you can commit, you have to stage things. You can use this plus button or the plus button over here. Here, in case you have multiple file change, you can commit, you can stage them one by one, or you can just use this button to stage everything. I'm going to use this button. Then that file, the changed file, move from change to stage change. Now it's the time to make a commit. We're going to do the same thing, say update data source link parameters. Let's make it more accurate. Since we know I'm Ben with this email address, and also I'm standing at a different branch, which is a side branch, not UAT, the main branch. And also the commit message for me, I'm pretty communicating, is very clear, say update data source link parameter, so I can make a commit. Once you make a commit, you can see the blue one is ahead from original UAT, and also this is on the different branch. Once we do this, everything has been done just locally. There's nothing happening in the remote, which is here. Going to GitHub, nothing happening here. Remote doesn't know anything you have done locally. So that's why there's a publish button right after you make a commit to a side branch. Because when you check out the side branch, GitHub doesn't know anything. So we need to push this to GitHub. Once you push this to the GitHub, you can see the cloud has a purple one. So cloud now has a side branch. We check this, refresh that. And then we check that. You can see the hotfix is in the place in the cloud. Then what do we do? Going back to our flowchart. The next step, once we have this developed stage commit hotfix, we need to create a pull request. What is a pull request? Pull request is a request to ask the team or the reviewer saying, can I merge my side branch to the main branch so the main branch can catch up? So basically that's what it does. So there's many ways you can create a pull request. Normally, you can do that throughout this session, which is the VS Code. But for that, you need to just install an extension. So pull request. So that's the thing that you need to install. Or there's another way, which is throughout the GitHub. Going back to here. What happened is the default branch UAT is the main branch through the perspective of GitHub. You're able to create a pull request right after you have that. So let's check out as a different branch. So we can see that it tells us the remote, the data source link branch Hotfix is one ahead of the main. So what we can do is we can go into pull request, we can create a new pull request. Based on this, we're gonna say Hotfix. Do that. So what happened is if you choose this, we're trying to merge a side branch, which is Hotfix, to the UAT. And then based on this, that's what's about to merge. So we can create pull request from the Ben's perspective. So great. Once we create, we can leave some message, say, this is to fix the data source link issue reported by Liam. Let's create. Once we create, then we need to have Emma's on board. So we have created pull request. Emma should be able to see that through her channel as well. So we switch to Emma, refresh the page. Now you can see the pull request is one. And here she can open this pull request. So basically this is what Emma need to do. So she need to review the code. See what has been removed, what has been updated. She can see the only change is that inside there's a bin, the in-train folder in place, and this is expected. So she can review changes. All good. And approve, submit. Once this is submit, Emma's job is done. So let's switch to focus from Emma to Ben. Once Emma is reviewed, you can see the message has been translated or transferred from Emma session to Ben session. Now we can create merge. So merge, there's many ways of merge. Normally, if you want to make it easier, just rebase and merge. This one means that do not create new commit doing something that you don't understand from the very beginning. Make it simple, just rebase and merge. Hit that. Once you hit that, you need to confirm once again to confirm rebase and merge. Let's do that. Okay. In the meantime, close this. Okay. Now it's been merged. As soon as you merge, you can see this delay branch. What happened here is that our branching strategy, going back to here, only the UAT will be a long life branch. It's like a pre-production branch. Or the hotfix branch, feature branch, or debug branch, they're short life. Short life means that as soon as the job is done, you make a pull request, merge to the UAT, and you're supposed to delete this branch. So what we're doing right now is we're gonna delete the side branch. There's many ways to delete side branch. You can see from here, I already have this button to delete. Since we start our work, commit work through the VS session. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go back to here to delete the branch. So let's just do them one by one. When I say one by one, because there are two branches that we need to delete. So first, if you want to delete a branch, make sure you are standing at a different branch. Let's standing at the UAT branch. Because we know that UAT branch is before this one, which means we have the update data source link. So like I said before, remote and local, they don't know each other until you tell them. So what we need to do is just go into 3 ellipse and fetch. Fetch means that you will try to sense the changes from each other. Since our cloud right now, going back to here, let's keep this window open a new GitHub. Let's copy the URL. Like I said before, going back to the VS Code, our remote branch is ahead of that. So the latest commit is update data source link. The previous one is update folder name. Let's go back to here. So the local, before I click the fetch, it stay here. So that's why there's an incoming change from the cloud. Do you want to sync that? So I want to sync that. Hit OK. Now you'll see this blue move up to this level and everything becomes blue, which means your local has keep track what happened in the remote. So this is all good. Now you're standing at a UAT and the UAT is same as the remote UAT. Now we're able to delete branches. Like I said, 2 branches. One is delete a local hotfix branch. Second is delete a remote hotfix branch. Let's delete this one first. We'll delete that, yes. Okay, this is done. Let's head back to here. Let's go into this repo and check that. It's gone, right? So easy. Now, another thing we want to delete is delete a local branch. Delete branch. This one, we have done that. Every change that in this side branch is no longer needed because we have merged that to the UAT, right? So we delete that. Okay, now it's very, very clear. No matter it's local or remote, both don't have the unnecessary branches. Okay, now this has been done totally. Let's head back to this visual, what we are done. Then check out as a local hotfix branch and he pushed that to cloud. So cloud has a hotfix. Under this hotfix, Ben create pull request to ask Emma to review if this branch can be merged to UAT. After Emma's review, she approved that. Upon approval, Ben make action to merge the hotfix to the UAT. Since we have set up the UAT branch in the GitHub using the GitHub fine-grained token linked to a UAT workspace, let's see what happened in the workspace. Let's head back to the workspace. If we're going back to this UAT workspace, you can see here the commit stays as 48270. Where is our 482870? Let's check this. Is this one, right? So, like I said before, at different stage, they don't know each other, but they will sense the change. Let's just say, do you want to sync? Right now, this one is ahead of this UAT. That's why it's also sensed. So we can see this 48287 5cc, which is this one. So in the workspace, it doesn't have the latest change, but if you check this source control, it senses a new change is incoming from the GitHub because we have set up the fine grain, right? So if you hit this source control, update all, what happens is your change will directly into this workspace. Now the commit has been changed, so it's updated to 0DC5. 0DC5, right? Code, if you open that, you should be able to see the 4 commit. Yes, okay. So once this has been done, if we view the pipeline, we have one more thing to do. If you check the UAT, nothing, because this is the source for the prod. If you click the prod, this will say, okay, your report seems like same as the source. Like we said before, I only update the data source link. I didn't make any visual changes. So report is the same. The only difference is the data set. So what we need to do is go into the prod workspace and tick the item that is different from the source, and then we deploy. Okay, now the deploy has been successful. So the push from the UAT to the prod is actually not utilizing the GitHub. Rather, we're using the Power BI pipeline feature in Power BI service to have this happen. Why we set this up? Because this push to here, you really don't need to keep track of the difference. Once UAT is done, next step is just push to the prod workspace. The reason we segregate that is that we want to benefit different user base for different workspace and different report, right? So you don't want to have one report, sometimes UAT, sometimes prod. That's why we set up 2 workspaces for this pipeline. But for the root, the base workspace is linked to the GitHub. So let's just revisit what we have done. The whole thing make it happen. The very important path is this path, which is a fine-grained token. We'll highlight that in the blue. Second part is setting up the pipeline between 2 workspaces. One is the prod, finally going to have that. For example, in this workspace, I can create app on top of this report to have consumer to use this data, but its source of this prod is based on a UAT workspace, and UAT workspace is linked to UAT branch. So developer are gonna touch on side branches all the time and make pull requests all the time, and reviewer are gonna review those pull requests all the time. If there's no conflict, there's no unnecessary change or unattended checking, everything should be ticked, and then yes, the merge will happen from side branch to a main branch. In our case, it's the UAT. Once this push is done, workspace will be able to sense the change coming from the UAT branch. You can decide whether to update that or not. Once that's done, multiple users get on board. For example, experts, they know the design of the report. Users, they know the data in the report. They're going to join force to have 8 things reviewed under the UAT workspace. Once this is done, the next step, just simple a deploy button throughout this pipeline. Pick the content you want to deploy, hit this button, and then you'll push that to a real prod. Under the real prod, you may create and cover on top of the report. For example, in our case, it's app, and let user access app only to consume the content. So that's pretty much for today. If you have any doubt of this, I can send this PDF workflow to you so you can use it by your side and develop your own Power BI workflow. If you have any doubts or any improved idea, please let me know in the comment section, because I know there's many ways you can let GitHub talk to your workspace. But in our case, in my case, best practice is not have multiple branch linked to multiple workspaces at the same time. I want to control, like say, a very linear workflow or development lifecycle. That's why I only link the UAT branch to the UAT workspace. So if you have a better idea, propose it and leave a comment. And thank you guys. See you guys in the next one.